In this video, we'll be discussing some of the most shocking real-life mysteries and locations in the state of Montana, home to the US's most isolated town and several abandoned ghost towns. Montana is bursting with sites that are home to unsolved mysteries. But before we get into today's video, be sure to go ahead and smack that like and subscribe button because I release storytelling of the mysterious and supernatural soon to be Monday through Friday. Let's go. Montana is home to well over 60 ghost towns that have been abandoned to time, industrialization, or extreme tragedies. Many of these towns have been said to be haunted, each having its own unique ghost stories and dark past. What makes these ghost towns unique is their remote locations. As you drive across the state, you'll notice a vast majority of Montana's towns are small, remote, and in the middle of the mountains. It's not uncommon to come across a city of under 1,000 residents. One-room schoolhouses are still widespread, and you'll find dilapidated buildings and historic homes from the 1800s on the side of modern highways, deeply tinged from past forest fires. Some of Montana's ghost towns aren't even available to the public, as the road to visit them is treacherous, especially in the cold and snowy Montana winters. Almost all of these historic towns are nestled within the evergreen forest, deep in the Montana wilderness, and far from any city. You'll need a full tank of gas and four-wheel drive to reach them. Montana's most famous ghost town is called Garnet Ghost Town, and it was home to miners and their families during the gold rush. Although residents never struck gold, the town was once thriving, even containing its own 3-story hotel, which is still viewable today. Garnet can be reached by a winding dirt road, which takes you 11 miles from the main highway into the deep Montana wilderness. On the way, you can view an old cemetery with the original gravestones still standing. Once you arrive, you'll walk down a gravel path into the valley where the old abandoned town still sits. In 1912, Garnet lost half of its buildings in a devastating forest fire. Although many of the original buildings still stand, they are burned to a dark brown tone and have sunk into the ground or broken up on top. Luckily, park rangers and other personnel have restored many of these buildings to their original glory to the best extent they could, allowing guests to Montana to visit and get a slice of history. Garnet got its name from the gems that were mined there. You can even buy them from the mines at the Garnet Ghost Town gift shop. Even if they didn't strike gold, Garnet's residents were popular in the garnet and gemstone trade. However, over time, the town had lost its shine and many residents moved away to the nearby booming city of Missoula. To this day, guests can visit many of the original buildings of Garnet, including the old jailhouse, one of the 13 original saloons, the town shop, and the blacksmith's home. You may even feel an air of mystery as you explore the darker and less visited buildings in the quiet Montana forest. Garnet is quite isolated, so there's not as much of a commercial feel as you might get in other populated locations. Garnet is said to be haunted, and park ranger and staff personnel have reported strange and eerie sights throughout their time working there. The most haunted building is said to be Kelly's Saloon, which is where Garnet residents used to drink and listen to music and be merry and meet up after a long day of working the mines. In the dead of night, janitors and caretakers living on site have heard singing, rushed footsteps, and light-hearted music flourishing from within the saloon buildings. Some caretakers have even heard doors slamming shut, even though the doors of the buildings were removed or burned in the fire. Although the caretakers try their best to see where these sounds are coming from, as soon as they have stepped up to the doorway, the sounds cease to exist, leaving silence and darkness in the cold Montana forest. Tourists visiting the city report feeling strange sensations in some of the buildings, especially in the dark, empty ones to the far left of the city. Some report feeling nauseous or feeling like somebody is watching them. Others report feeling as though they are in grave danger. Garnet is not the only extremely haunted ghost town in Montana. Another city, only 20 miles west of Yellowstone National Park, Virginia City, is an old western mining town from around the same time as Garnet. Slightly larger than Garnet, Virginia City had 10,000 residents at its prime. Virginia City is one of the more commercialized ghost towns of Montana. However, it is also one of the most haunted. Both guests and caretakers of this city have reported strange sights at night, including a black-robed figure walking the streets. The city's old inn, the Bonanza Inn, is the most haunted building in town. Guests have begun to smell strange hints of rot throughout the building, as well as hearing unexplained tapping and footsteps from upstairs. Believe it or not, the Bonanza Inn was once a hospital that was home to dying patients. The woman who cared for these patients was Sister Irene, a woman who worked for the Sisters of a charity group at the time. She was a nun and worked tirelessly to save the lives of those impacted by extreme illness in her community. The Bosman Paranormal Group in Montana has investigated Virginia City in great detail and has reported having paranormal experiences at every ghost hunt. Apparitions are the most common sighting here, and the group has even had run-ins with spirits who have shut them within a room in the town's inn. Sister Irene and ghostly apparitions in the street aren't the only sightings of old townsfolk. Some visitors have spotted an old Civil War soldier near the town. He appears angry and lost. After crossing the road, it's almost as if he was never there, as he disappears into thin air. Luckily for ghost enthusiasts, you can explore these stories for yourself at Virginia City's guided ghost walk tours. After your visit, head over to the city and to Yellowstone National Park for more Montana tourism. As we've covered in previous videos, Yellowstone is the site of many frightening mysteries and creature sightings. We may never truly know the identities of the mysterious apparitions at Virginia City or the source of the music at Garnet Ghost Town. However, the isolated nature of Montana's old ghost towns is enticing to any history buff or paranormal fanatic. If you're looking for a less visited ghost town, you can try heading up the isolated backroads to some of the lost towns in the middle of rural Montana, such as the Bannock State Park Town, Granite Ghost Town, or Phillipsburg's Ghost Town. Many of the local towns that host these historic sites actually have books by local historians and paranormal investigators available to learn more about the history in these specific locations. Find out for yourself what's lurking in the shadows in the deep forest of Montana. We've all heard of skinwalkers or shapeshifters, creatures so sinister and so terrifying that the tribes who have told their legends may even refuse to state their name. Skinwalkers or shapeshifters are said to be old Native American witches who have turned themselves over to evil. They can shapeshift into seemingly normal appearing animals that behave strangely and almost human-like. Montana is home to many shapeshifter stories and legends, as Montana is also home to 12 indigenous tribes. Skinwalker sightings on the reservations are common, especially in the dark and isolated woods of the area. One story, in particular, comes from the Flathead Reservation in Arley, Montana. Driving at night down the unlit back roads, a young woman had noticed a rabbit off the side of the road. There was nothing so strange about the rabbit, except that it hopped out in front of the car and sat still, staring into the woman's eyes. Unsure what to do, she stopped her car for a brief moment, and the rabbit stayed still and then hopped on. Thinking it was just a strange coincidence, the woman continued down the road. About a minute later, a deer appeared almost out of nothingness. The woman stops again, afraid she would hit the deer with her truck. It started to walk around the front of the vehicle. Yet instead of hopping away as a deer might do, it stepped purposefully towards the woman's driver's side door and looked her in the eyes. There was something not right about the animal's gaze. Afraid now, the woman stepped on the gas and continued down the road to her destination. Not even a minute later, another animal appeared from the shadows on the side of the road and stepped into the road, about 10 feet ahead. It was a coyote, and it had the same empty gaze that the other animals had worn. As she approached, she heard a scream coming from the left side of the road, almost as if it were coming from inside the car. She decided to keep going, and the coyote moved out of the way at the last minute. When she looked back in her rearview mirror, she saw a slinking figure of a hunched over person crawling into the bushes. There was no sign of the coyote. Whether this story is a myth, we may never know. However, real footage of skinwalkers or shapeshifters in isolated states is quite common. It's not unheard of to see a traveler going along the road at night, only to film a chilling, screaming sound coming from the desert or from the woods around them. So, if you ever see an animal acting strangely at night, have caution. Don't look at it in the eyes and be sure to film it. If you've ever had a skinwalker encounter or sighting, or know someone who has, comment below and let us know what happened. Do you think skinwalkers are real? Is Montana's wilderness truly teeming with untrustworthy wildlife? Does saying the name of the creature make it more real? These are questions that only we can answer as we search for the truth of the skinwalker legends in Montana and other isolated states. Our next story involves a strange furry creature found and shot near Denton, Montana. The creature was dark brown in color, with short, stubby ears and a long muzzle. Experts and ranchers alike were confused by the creature's strange appearance. It looked to be a cross between a wolf and a bear. And on May 16, 2018, a rancher noticed a strange animal stalking livestock near his own property. In order to protect the cattle, he shot at the animal and then contacted the authorities. When authorities arrived, wildlife experts were called to examine the animal. The experts determined that the animal had some features similar to the regular gray wolves of the area. However, some features seemed off. For example, the front paw of the creature was short with long claws, and its teeth were almost dull. In a photo taken by the wildlife experts, it almost appeared as if the wolfy creature were part bear. No matter what it was, one thing is certain: it was not a purebred wolf. The wildlife and forest protection officers determined it was part of the canine family, which does include wolves, dogs, coyotes, and of course other wild canines. However, Montana residents were not convinced. The photos started to circulate online, which led some to state that the creature was not truly animal at all. Some were convinced that it was a werewolf or a skinwalker preying on cattle and caught at the wrong moment. Others stated that the dog-like creature was a cryptid mix between a bear and a wolf, or a whole new species of wolf that had not yet been discovered in the area. Others even stated it was a dogman, a mythical creature known to cause destruction and fear wherever it goes. After the creature had captured the media's attention, the Fish and Wildlife Service decided to get DNA testing done to see what the animal really was. The testing came back a few months later with shocking results. The strange wolf-like creature with big ears, short teeth, and long claws was truly just a young gray wolf, after all. The laboratory that did the test compared the dog's DNA with that of wolves, dogs, and coyotes in the area, and it was no different from the DNA of a regular gray wolf. However, some people are not convinced by this response. For one thing, there are no registered wolf packs in central Montana where this wolf was found. The wolf would have to have traveled great distances by itself to show up in the field of cattle. Some users on Reddit and Facebook believe the government is covering up the sighting and trying to reduce fear in the population. Although the original reports from the Fish and Wildlife Service show that the wolf's features were very odd and not congruent with a full-blooded wolf, any further speculation has since been shut down. So, what do you believe? Was this an ancient mythical creature? Potentially a werewolf, a dogman, or was this a shapeshifter, or simply a wolf-dog hybrid? Or do you believe the DNA testing that this brown wolf 100 miles from home could be a purebred gray wolf? Montana is home to some of the country's first brothels. One of the most famous of these is the Duma Brothel, which was founded by Arthur and Joseph Nadeau in 1890 when brothels were still legal in the state. Located in the original mining town of Butte, Montana, the brothel was popular with miners traveling throughout the area. The brothel was open for almost 100 years, closing in 1982 after the authorities had cracked down on the law. It was the longest operating brothel in the US at the time and is now a tourist attraction and museum. At the beginning of the Duma Brothels region, Butte's East Galena Street was full of brothels. The area was known as the Twilight Zone, and almost every building on the street was a brothel. There was even a theater called the Casino Theater, which had prostitution available as well. Only 3 of the homes ended up succeeding, however. They included the Hotel Victoria, the Windsor Hotel, and the Duma Brothel. Unfortunately, in these early years, the Duma Brothel was the site of many dark stories. The lower level basement of the building was where the women worked for the first few years of business and provided a door to the building's back alleyway. In the back alley, where violent crimes were common, including shootings, drug abuse, stabbings, robbery, and assaults. In the alley, women would set up cribs, which were small areas for men to purchase their services. Many women were mistreated or abused in this area. Lower class women worked in these areas, whereas the madame and higher class women worked in the building's apartment on the top floor, which is where the museum now stands. It was considered high class, and more wealthy men would visit that area of the brothel. When the brothel was in its prime, the owners covered up their operations by listing themselves as a saloon. They paid the women about 20 cents per visit when a customer and pocked about 30. The women who worked at the brothel would even pay the police officers in town to keep quiet about the business, paying them around $5 in taxes. In 1940, the price for women was eventually raised to $2 per encounter, with the woman taking about $1.20 of that home. The brothel continued to run through World War II. The new safeguards against diseases and crime were put in place, such as a doorbell system. And finally, at the end of the brothel's time in business in the 1980s, women were paid around $20 for their services. However, the brothel eventually closed down when the madame was charged with tax evasion in 1981. The brothel can still be visited today, and the original rooms of the working women are available to view. You can read about the health testing system, see the timesheets for the women, and even view the kitchen where they cooked meals and spent time together. The Duma Brothel is also said to be one of the most haunted buildings in Montana state, and there are many stories that come along with this reputation. The brothel's dark past and original structure had provided a deep sense of awe to any visitor in the city. The brothel's second madame, Madame Eleanor Knott, mysteriously turned up dead in the 1950s after planning to visit her boyfriend. Although the death was ruled a natural cause, many believe that she was attacked. Her body was not allowed to be seen after her autopsy, so there's strange stuff going on there. Others believe that Eleanor had took herself out because she was said to have been leaving with a suitcase to meet her lover. However, he had never showed up. Legend has it that she took herself out, believing that her lover did not love her anymore. After Eleanor, the brothel's management went to another woman named Bonita, who shortly died afterward from cancer. Maybe this whole brothel thing is cursed. She was then succeeded by another woman named Ruby Garnet, who worked until the brothel's closing. Since its transformation into a museum, the brothel has been the site of several ghostly sightings. Visitors claim to see dark and evil apparitions of women walking around the brothel, including one of a woman with a suitcase who matches the exact descriptions of Madame Eleanor Knott. Another strange occurrence had happened when an artist had visited the brothel to paint. She found herself wanting to paint a woman whom she had never seen before. With an eerie feeling of dread, she sat down and finished the painting. She left her paintings in the room, unable to look at the face of the woman she had painted. Later, the owner of the building found these paintings and found an image of an older woman of about 40 years. It looked to be Bonita, the woman who had died of cancer in the same room only years prior. However, many visitors claim that it could have been Eleanor, as they do share similar facial features. Many guests report feeling sick or unwell when visiting the basement of the brothel. They claim that there's a negative energy in the basement, and it's very, very dark, much darker than the apartments in the upstairs or the high-class area. On the first floor and basement levels, visitors have reported strange fog that seems to rise up out of the floor. At times, guests can smell cigar smoke and hear voices as if the brothel was still in full swing. Ghost investigation teams have even visited the brothel and have recorded EVPs of spirits leaving messages for visitors of the location. Some visitors even claim to have spoken to young prostitute spirits who had lived and worked at the brothel and perished an untimely death in their dark work conditions in the lower bungalows. What do you think? Is the brothel haunted by the tortured spirits of past workers? Was Eleanor's death a cover-up? And who was the woman in the portrait painted by the artist in the old madame's room? The brothel offers ghost tours to those who ask to this day. Although under new ownership, it continues to be restored for the public to visit and continues to be an area of very high paranormal activity. Last but not least, we have a legend of a Montana cryptid creature on the crystal clear blue waters of Flathead Lake in Polson, Montana. If you have ever been to Flathead Lake, you know it's Montana's second largest lake and is well known for its rainbow rocks and gorgeous scenery. The Flathead Lake monster, similar to the Loch Ness monster, is a large eel-like creature that has been sighted by multiple fishermen, tourists, and locals throughout the years. Although its existence is not proven, the creature is said to be the same type of creature as the Loch Ness monster. Those who have sighted the Flathead Lake monster state that it is about 20 to 40 feet in length, with a long eel-like body. It is dark in color, with no scales or fins. It has beady black eyes like a fish. Many fishermen have compared it to a sturgeon. In 1889, the creature was seen from atop a steamboat of fishermen. The men believed they were approaching a log or other type of miscellaneous debris in the water. However, it turned out to be a large fish or whale-like creature. Although they couldn't see the entire thing, its dark shadow lurked underneath their boat and then disappeared into the depths of the water. Since the initial sighting, the creature has become a local legend, and there are about 1 to 2 sightings of it per year. Now, in the year 1993, the creature was seen 13 separate times. During this, tourists have claimed to have seen 2 of the creature and not just 1. Now, this speculation has led cryptozoologists to believe that there could be a family of lake monsters living under the surface. The sightings of the Flathead Lake monster are always different, because some people have seen it only under the water, slinking silently by. Others have seen it come out of the water, peering its giant serpent-like head at them from a distance. Many have seen 2 heads together or perhaps a tail. Although not every sighting is the same, most sightings do state that the creature's appearance never changes. It is blue, black in color, and has dark beady eyes. Its serpent-like or eel-like form is a common denominator in retellings. Even a nearby county's own judge has viewed the animal himself. In 2005, a Jim Manley and his wife were sailing near Big Arm, Montana, when their boat's motor died. They heard a noise coming from the water behind them, and Jim turns around to see the creature only 20 feet ahead of him. He said the animal had humps on its back and was an eel-like creature with dark skin and big beady eyes. He swears what he saw is real, and his wife backs his claim. After the splashing had subsided, the creature dove back down into the water and left Jim and his wife to wonder. Some of the local businesses around Flathead have taken to their liking for the lake monster. You can even eat a pizza named after it at the Cove Deli and Pizza nearby. There is also a statue in commemoration of the creature which can be visited. Although the creature has not yet been thoroughly photographed just yet, locals believe it won't be long before it is. The Flathead Lake monster may be large in size, but it is known to be quite fast and often jumps out or off a frame or under the surface of water before images can be thoroughly captured. Although the monster is gigantic in size, locals do not feel afraid of him. In fact, they look at the Flathead Lake monster as a local friend. They believe if you treat the lake with respect, the being will treat you with respect. If you ever catch a sighting of the monster yourself, contact the Flathead Lakers, an organization that works on Flathead Lake to restore the area, keep the waters clean, and conserve the forest and nature all around. They actually have a webpage dedicated to the monster and claim that they will not laugh at you or make fun of you for your sighting. And in fact, they'd love to hear about it and will enter in your comments in the official historical archives of the Flathead Lake monster for all to see for years to come. Have you spotted the Flathead Lake monster? Do you believe there's more than one? If you ever visit Montana, be sure to take a boating trip off the coast of Flathead Lake or look out the window of your lake cabin in the morning. You might just catch a glimpse of the legend himself. But more importantly, I want to know what you guys think. Be sure to let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from all of you. Also, if you are a fan of storytelling of the mysterious and supernatural, be sure to go ahead and smack that like and subscribe button for more content just like this. As always, guys, I love you all. Keep an open mind, and I'll catch you guys in the very next video.